AITA for refusing to keep financially supporting my sister after a family emergency I helped create. I am the oldest of 3 siblings, 32F. My sister Maya is 29, and our brother is 24. For most of our lives, Maya has been the family favorite in a quiet, unspoken way. She is charming, emotional, and always seems to be in some kind of crisis. I was the reliable one. Good grades, steady job, no drama. My parents leaned on me early and often, and I internalized that as my role. 6 years ago, Maya dropped out of college after getting into a messy relationship and moved back home. She bounced between jobs and eventually had a baby with a guy who disappeared before the birth. Our parents helped at first, but they're not well off and both still work physically demanding jobs. I had just started making decent money in tech, so I stepped in. I helped with rent, childcare, groceries, and emergencies. At the time, it felt temporary and necessary. Temporary became permanent. I paid for daycare so Maya could work, then covered gaps when she quit because the job was too stressful. I paid late fees, car repairs, and once even her legal consultation after a dispute with a former employer. I never put conditions on the help, but I did ask that she be honest with me about her finances. She always promised she was. Last year, our mom had a health scare and needed surgery. I took time off work, coordinated appointments, and covered medical expenses insurance did not fully handle. During that time, I discovered that Maya had been receiving child support for over a year and had never mentioned it. Not only that, she had used that money to take multiple trips with friends and to put a down payment on a newer car, while still asking me for help with basics. When I confronted her, she said she did not tell me because she knew I would stop helping and she needed to enjoy her life sometimes. She said being a single mom was hard and I did not understand because I do not have kids. I was angry, but more than that, I felt deeply betrayed. I told her I would no longer provide regular financial support. I said I would still help in true emergencies, but I was done being her safety net. This caused an explosion in the family. Maya accused me of abandoning her and her child. My parents said I was being harsh and that family helps family. They pointed out that I make more money than all of them combined and that my niece would suffer if Maya struggled. I reminded them that I had already contributed tens of thousands of dollars over the years and that Maya had lied to me repeatedly. Things escalated when Maya missed a rent payment and asked me to cover it. I said no. She cried, yelled, and told me I was punishing her for being honest too late. My parents ended up helping her by dipping into their savings, and now they are resentful of me for not stepping in like I usually do. Family gatherings are tense, and I am treated like I am selfish or cruel. What makes this harder is that I do love my niece. I worry about her stability and future. Part of me feels guilty, like I am failing her by setting this boundary. Another part of me feels like I finally stopped enabling a cycle that will never end if I keep rescuing Maya. I offered to help her make a budget and plan for independence. She refused, saying she does not need a financial advisor. She needs a sister. Recently, my mom told me that Maya is considering moving back in with them because she cannot afford her place anymore. My parents are in their late 50s and exhausted. I know if that happens, the pressure will circle back to me again. I told my mom that I would not step in financially this time, and she cried and said she did not raise me to be like this. I feel like I am being punished for finally saying no after years of saying yes. At the same time, I cannot shake the feeling that maybe I'm being too rigid and that this is just what family does, even when it hurts. I genuinely do not know if I crossed a line or if this was long overdue. AITA, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after I ruined her engagement dinner by leaving early and taking the gift with me. I am 29F. My sister Lily is 32F. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, louder more confident, always praised for her achievements. I was the quiet one who kept my head down and avoided conflict. As adults, things are civil but distant. We don't fight openly, but there's a long history of her dismissing my feelings and then acting confused when I pull away. Lily got engaged 6 months ago to Mark, who seems fine but has clearly learned to orbit around her moods. She decided to throw an engagement dinner at a fancy restaurant and invited close family and friends. About 3 weeks before the dinner, Lily called me and asked if I could help coordinate things. I agreed, mostly because I knew saying no would be turned into "you never support me." I helped with reservations, menu choices, and even designed little printed place cards because she wanted something classy but not cheap-looking. During this time, Lily also asked me what I planned to give them as an engagement gift. I said I hadn't decided yet. She laughed and said, "Well, don't cheap out. This is a big moment for me." I brushed it off, but it stuck with me. I make less money than she does, and she knows that. Still, I decided to get them something meaningful, a custom-framed illustration of the restaurant where they had their first date, along with a handwritten note. It wasn't flashy, but it took time and thought. The night of the dinner, I arrived early with the gift carefully wrapped. Lily barely acknowledged me, immediately handing me tasks like rearranging chairs and checking the seating chart. When guests arrived, she suddenly introduced me as my little sister. She helped with the boring logistics. People laughed awkwardly. I smiled and let it go. Throughout the dinner, Lily made several comments that felt like small jabs. When someone asked about my job, she interrupted to say she's still figuring things out, even though I've been in the same field for 5 years. When dessert arrived, she joked about how stressed she was because some people didn't really step up while looking directly at me. I started feeling like I was shrinking in my chair. Then came the gifts. Lily opened them one by one in front of everyone. When she got to mine, she opened it, stared at it for a few seconds, and said, "Oh, this is cute." She set it aside without reading the note. The next gift was an expensive kitchen appliance, which she gushed over for several minutes, hugging the giver and saying how perfect it was. Something in me just snapped. I felt humiliated, like I was 15 again, watching her get praised while I was an afterthought. I excused myself to the bathroom, sat there shaking, and realized I didn't want to be there anymore. I went back to the table, quietly picked up my wrapped note and illustration from the gift pile, grabbed my coat, and left without saying goodbye. About 20 minutes later, my phone exploded with messages. Lily demanded to know where I went. My mom said I was being dramatic and that Lily was just excited. Mark texted asking if everything was okay. I didn't respond that night. The next day, Lily called me screaming. She said I embarrassed her in front of everyone, that people noticed I left, and that taking the gift was petty and vindictive. She said the illustration was already unwrapped and that now there was an awkward gap in the gift table. I told her honestly that I left because I felt belittled all evening and that her reaction to my gift hurt. She laughed and said I was overreacting and jealous because her engagement wasn't about me. I said I would not apologize unless she acknowledged how she treated me. She said she had nothing to apologize for and that if I didn't make this right, she would rethink our relationship. My mom sided with her and said I should just say sorry to keep the peace. Some relatives have reached out saying I should have stayed and talked it out instead of leaving. I feel torn. On one hand, I know leaving abruptly caused a scene and taking the gift might have looked bad. On the other hand, I feel like I finally stood up for myself after years of swallowing comments and pretending they didn't hurt. I don't think an apology should only go one way, and I don't want to teach her that she can treat me however she wants without consequences. So AITA for leaving my sister's engagement dinner early and taking my gift back instead of apologizing for ruining her night. AITA for refusing to apologize after I ruined my sister's engagement dinner by telling the truth about how it was paid for. I am 29F. My sister Lena is 32F. We have always had a complicated relationship. She is the golden child in my family, charismatic, ambitious, and very good at presenting a polished version of her life. I am quieter, practical, and apparently too honest, according to my mom. A year ago, Lena quit her job to focus on herself. That translated into my parents covering her rent, car payment, and credit cards. They told everyone she was freelancing. I knew the truth because my dad vented to me constantly about the money. Around the same time, I loaned my parents $8,000 to help with an unexpected tax issue. They promised to pay me back within 6 months. Fast forward to 3 months ago. Lena got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. He seems nice enough, but he has no idea how financially dependent Lena is. She talks nonstop about their independence and how proud she is that they are self-made. I usually keep my mouth shut. Last month, my parents invited the whole family to an engagement dinner at an expensive restaurant. I was surprised because my parents had recently told me they were still struggling and hadn't repaid a cent of what I loaned them. When I asked my mom privately how they were affording this, she brushed me off and said, "It's important for Lena." At the dinner, everything was very performative. My sister gave a speech about how hard she and Mark had worked and thanked our parents for emotional support only. People applauded. My dad looked uncomfortable. I was already irritated, but I stayed quiet. Then my aunt made a toast and said something like, "It's so wonderful to see young people who don't rely on their parents' money." Lena smiled and nodded. At that point, Mark laughed and said, "Yeah, we're really proud we paid for tonight ourselves." That is when something in me snapped. I said, calmly but loudly enough for the table, "Actually, Mom and Dad paid for this. The same way they've been paying for Lena's rent and bills all year." The table went dead silent. My mom gasped. My sister stared at me like I had slapped her. Mark looked confused and asked what I meant. My dad told me to stop talking. Lena started crying and ran to the bathroom. The rest of the night was chaos. Mark followed Lena. My mom told me I was cruel and jealous. My dad said we would talk later. We left early. The next day, Lena called me screaming. She said I humiliated her, undermined her relationship, and that I had no right to discuss private family finances. She said Mark was now questioning her about money and trust. My mom backed her up and demanded I apologize publicly to Lena and privately to Mark. I refused. I said I didn't lie. I also pointed out that my parents still owe me $8,000, yet somehow had money for a luxury dinner meant to impress people with a false narrative. That did not go over well. My dad eventually admitted they used part of the money I loaned them to help pay for the dinner and Lena's recent expenses, with the intention of sorting it out later. That made me even angrier. I told them they had no right to use my money to support a lie. Now my family is divided. My parents say I should have waited and talked to them privately. Lena says I sabotaged her engagement out of bitterness. Some relatives have messaged me saying I should have kept the peace. A few quietly told me they were glad someone finally said something. Mark has apparently postponed wedding planning until he and Lena get on the same page financially. Lena says that is my fault. I don't feel good about the timing, but I also feel like I was watching everyone applaud a lie that I indirectly paid for. I am still being asked to apologize, and my parents say it is the only way to heal the family. AITA for saying what I said when I said it, and refusing to apologize afterward. AITA for refusing to hand over a community asset that I paid for and then being blamed for ruining my family's peace. I'm 32, married, no kids, and I grew up in a very close, very loud, extended family. Think weekly dinners, shared group chats, and a strong belief that what's yours is ours if we need it. I moved back to my hometown 2 years ago after a job change and bought a small house with a decent backyard. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, and that matters to me because I spent most of my 20s living with roommates who treated my stuff like public property. Last summer, after a heat wave that felt endless, I saved up and bought an above-ground pool. It wasn't cheap, but I did the math, paid for installation, fencing, maintenance supplies, and hire insurance. I was proud of it. When it was finished, I invited my parents, siblings, and a few cousins over for a casual pool day. Everyone loved it. Kids splashed, adults drank lemonade, and it felt like I'd done something nice for the family. That's where things started to slide. My sister asked if she could bring her kids over on weekdays since I work from home and wouldn't even notice them. I said sure as long as she texted first and stayed with them. Then my cousin asked if her teens could swim after school. Then my mom started telling relatives, "You can use the pool, just let me know and I'll tell Opie." Suddenly I was getting messages like, "We're outside, can you unlock the gate?" while I was on work calls. I tried to be flexible at first. I didn't want to be the selfish one with the pool who never lets anyone enjoy it. But it became disruptive. People left towels everywhere, kids tracked water into my house, and one time I came outside to find someone had adjusted the filter settings without telling me. When I gently said I needed more notice and fewer drop-ins, my mom told me I was being uptight and that family shouldn't need appointments. The real blow-up happened last month. I went out of town for a long weekend. While I was gone, my sister hosted my nephew's birthday party at my house. I didn't know about it until I got a text saying, "Hope it's okay. Kids are having a blast." It was not okay. I came home to muddy footprints, a broken pool skimmer, and trash bags piled by my garage. My sister apologized, but said she assumed I'd be fine because I never say no. I finally snapped and said the pool was off limits unless I personally invited people over. I changed the gate lock and sent a message in the family group chat explaining that I needed boundaries. I said I was still happy to host planned gatherings, but my home couldn't be a free-for-all. The reaction was immediate and intense. My mom called me crying, saying I'd embarrassed her. My sister said I was punishing the kids. A cousin accused me of dangling the pool like bait and then yanking it away. Now the family gatherings are tense. People make passive comments about private property and some people forgetting where they come from. I've been told I'm acting like I'm better than everyone because I own something nice. My dad is the only one who quietly said he understands, but wishes I'd handled it differently. I feel guilty because I know the pool brought a lot of joy, especially to the kids, and I don't want to be the villain in their memories. At the same time, I feel used. I paid for everything. I deal with the liability, and my work and peace were affected. I didn't buy a public pool. I bought something for my home, assuming I could choose how it's used. I'm standing my ground, but the pressure is constant, and I'm starting to wonder if I really did cross an invisible family line by saying no. AITA for locking the gate and insisting that my pool is not a community asset. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after I ruined her engagement dinner by telling the truth. I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Lily, 29F. Growing up, she was the golden child. She was charming, social, and effortlessly good at things, while I was quieter and more serious. Our parents didn't mean to play favorites, but it showed in little ways. Lily's mistakes were brushed off as phases, while mine were treated as character flaws. As adults, we're civil, but not especially close. We see each other at holidays and big events, and keep things polite. Lily recently got engaged to Mark, 35M. Everyone was thrilled. Mark is successful, generous, and very into Lily. They moved fast, but no one questioned it because Lily has always been good at getting what she wants. About a month ago, Lily invited our immediate family and Mark's parents to a fancy engagement dinner at a restaurant she chose. She framed it as a celebration and a chance for the families to bond. Here's where things get complicated. 2 years ago, I briefly dated Mark. It wasn't serious, but it also wasn't nothing. We went out for about 3 months, spent a lot of time together, and talked about future plans before I ended it. The breakup was calm and mutual. We realized we wanted different things, and we went our separate ways. I hadn't seen or spoken to him since. Lily knew about this. When she first told me she was dating Mark, I was surprised and uncomfortable, but I didn't object. She asked if it was weird, and I said yes, a little, but I could handle it. I didn't want to be the bitter older sister who makes everything about herself. Over time, I convinced myself it didn't matter. At the engagement dinner, everything started fine. There were toasts, laughter, and a lot of wine. Mark gave a speech about how Lily was the love of his life, and how he'd never felt this certain about anyone before. Lily was glowing. Then Lily stood up and joked about how funny it was that fate brought them together, because if things had gone differently, they might never have met. She laughed and added, "Right, sis?" while looking directly at me. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt put on the spot, but I smiled and nodded. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Later, after a few more drinks, Mark's mother asked how Lily and Mark met. Lily launched into a story about them randomly running into each other at a charity event and instantly connecting. This wasn't exactly true. They met because Lily saw Mark tagged in one of my old photos and asked me about him. She messaged him shortly after. I didn't say anything at first, but then Mark's father chimed in about how romantic it was that they met by pure chance. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the wine, maybe it was years of swallowing my feelings, or maybe it was Lily smirking at me across the table like this was all some private joke. I said, calmly and without raising my voice, actually, they met because Lily reached out to him after we dated. It wasn't really random. The table went silent. Lily's face dropped. Mark looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. Lily quickly laughed and said I was confused and that I must be misremembering. I replied that I wasn't, and that Lily had asked me about him before contacting him. I didn't insult anyone or go into details. I just stated the fact and then stopped talking. The rest of the dinner was tense. Lily barely spoke to me. Afterward, she sent me a long message accusing me of trying to humiliate her, sabotage her relationship, and make the night about myself. She said I could have kept my mouth shut and that my jealousy was obvious. She demanded an apology, both to her and to Mark's parents. Our parents are split. My mom thinks I should apologize just to keep the peace, saying it was unnecessary to bring it up at a celebration. My dad says Lily shouldn't have dragged me into the conversation if she didn't want the truth to come out. Mark texted me privately and said he wasn't angry, but that the situation was awkward and he wished I'd talked to Lily about it privately instead. I don't think I did anything wrong. I didn't bring it up out of nowhere. I corrected a false story after being directly referenced multiple times. I didn't insult Lily or imply she did anything immoral. I just told the truth. At the same time, I can see how it embarrassed her, and I know engagement dinners are emotionally charged events. Lily hasn't spoken to me since and has told relatives that I tried to ruin her engagement because I'm not over Mark, which isn't true. I've been in a stable relationship for over a year and am genuinely happy. I just don't like being turned into a prop in someone else's rewritten version of events. So, AITA for refusing to apologize and standing by what I said, even though it caused a scene at my sister's engagement dinner. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role without telling me. I am 32F. My sister Lena is 29F. Growing up, it was always the two of us against the world. Our parents worked a lot, and we leaned on each other for everything from homework, help to sneaking snacks into our room. When Lena got engaged last year, she told me immediately and asked me to be her maid of honor. I cried, she cried, it was a whole moment. I helped her pick venues, sat through color palette debates, and listened to her vent about guest lists for months. For context, I am not married and do not have kids. I work remotely and have a flexible schedule, so I ended up doing a lot of the legwork. I went with her to dress fittings, helped assemble invitations, and even paid out of pocket for a weekend bachelorette trip because one of her friends dropped out last minute. I did this willingly. I love my sister, and I thought this was what being maid of honor meant. About 2 months ago, Lena started acting distant. She was slower to respond to texts and would say she was busy when I asked if she needed help. I assumed it was normal pre-wedding stress. Then I found out through our cousin that Lena had asked her best friend from college, Maya, to be co-maid of honor. This alone stung, but I told myself I was being sensitive and that weddings make people do weird things. I finally asked Lena directly, and she admitted it but brushed it off, saying she wanted to spread the responsibility. I said okay, even though no one had told me my role was changing. After that, I noticed I was being left out of planning conversations. Group chats existed that I was not in. Decisions were made without my input, even ones I had previously been responsible for. The real issue happened 3 weeks ago. I went to my parents' house for dinner, and my mom casually asked if I was excited to walk down the aisle as a bridesmaid instead of maid of honor. I honestly thought she was joking. When I asked what she meant, she said Lena told the family she had decided Maya would be maid of honor because she was better at speeches and more traditional. Apparently, Lena assumed I would be fine with it and didn't want to have an awkward conversation. I felt humiliated, not just because of the demotion, but because everyone else knew before I did. I called Lena that night. She said she didn't think it was a big deal, that titles didn't matter, and that I was making it about me. I told her it wasn't about the title, It was about respect and communication. She accused me of stressing her out and said if I couldn't be supportive, maybe I shouldn't be involved at all. I took a step back after that. I stopped helping with wedding stuff and kept our conversations polite but distant. A week later, Lena texted asking why I hadn't responded to a vendor email that she had forwarded to me. I reminded her that I was no longer maid of honor and hadn't agreed to keep doing those tasks. She said I was being petty and punishing her for a harmless choice. The final straw came when I received a generic wedding itinerary email addressed to bridal party. In it, I was assigned to usher guests and help coordinate seating, while Maya was listed as giving the maid of honor speech and holding the bouquet during the ceremony. I realized I was expected to do logistical work while being publicly sidelined. I called Lena again and told her I needed space and that, honestly, I didn't feel comfortable attending the wedding at all. I said I loved her but felt deeply hurt and disrespected. She cried and said I was abandoning her on the most important day of her life. My parents are now involved and think I should be the bigger person and attend to keep the peace. They say weddings are stressful and Lena didn't mean to hurt me. Some friends agree with me and say Lena handled everything badly. Others say skipping my sister's wedding is extreme and something I can't take back. I am torn because I never wanted to miss her wedding, but I also feel like going would mean swallowing my feelings entirely and pretending nothing happened. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role without telling me and made me feel like an afterthought. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned the role she begged me to take. I, 29F, have an older sister, Leah, 33F. Growing up, Leah was the golden child. She was loud, charismatic, and always knew how to pull attention toward herself. I was the quiet one who followed rules and helped clean up after everyone else. Our parents didn't mean to play favorites, but the pattern was obvious. Leah got forgiven, I got expectations. Despite that, I've always shown up for her. I helped her move apartments 4 times, lent her money she repaid late or not at all, and babysat her dog for weeks at a time. When she got engaged last year, I was genuinely happy for her. She called me crying, saying she couldn't imagine getting married without me right by her side. She asked me to be her maid of honor. I was shocked. She had always said her best friend Nina would be her maid of honor someday, so I double-checked. Leah insisted. She said this wedding was about family and healing old stuff between us. I agreed, even though I knew it would be a lot of work and emotional labor. Over the next 8 months, I helped with everything. I went to every venue tour, tastings, fittings, and planning calls. I organized the bachelorette weekend, fronted money for deposits when others were late, and mediated fights between bridesmaids. Leah leaned on me constantly, calling me at midnight to vent about her fiancé or her in-laws. I didn't complain because I thought this was finally us being sisters. 3 weeks ago, Leah invited me over to talk. She was acting nervous, which is unusual for her. She sat me down and said she had been thinking a lot and decided that Nina would actually be a better maid of honor. She said Nina is more outgoing and would match the vibe of the wedding better. She assured me it wasn't personal and said she still wanted me in the wedding party as a bridesmaid. I was stunned. I asked why she didn't tell me sooner, especially after everything I'd done. She said she didn't want to stress me out earlier and thought I'd understand because I'm low drama. That phrase hit hard. It felt like she was saying my feelings didn't count because I don't make scenes. I told her I needed time to think. Later that night, she texted me a long message saying she hoped I wouldn't ruin her big day over something so small. That's when I snapped. I replied that it wasn't small to me and that it felt like she used me for months and tossed me aside when someone more fun came along. The next day, she told our parents. They called me and said I was being sensitive and should just be happy for my sister. My mom reminded me that weddings are stressful and not everything is about me. My dad said I should go, smile, and not make things awkward for the family. I decided I wouldn't attend the wedding at all. I told Leah I loved her but couldn't sit through a day pretending I wasn't hurt. She accused me of trying to punish her and said people would talk if her own sister wasn't there. She also said she already told everyone I stepped down voluntarily and didn't want drama. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. Some relatives say I'm standing up for myself, and that Leah crossed the line. Others say I'm selfish and holding a grudge over a title. Nina messaged me apologizing, but also saying she felt caught in the middle and hoped I'd still come so things could feel normal. I keep going back and forth. Part of me feels relieved not to go and play happy family. Another part of me worries I'll regret missing such a big moment and permanently damaging our relationship. But I also feel like if I go, I'm telling her it's okay to treat me like this again. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she replaced me as maid of honor. AITA for refusing to apologize after my family ruined my wedding weekend because they thought it was impractical. I got married 3 weeks ago. My partner and I planned the wedding for over a year, paid for most of it ourselves, and were very clear from the start that we wanted something small, calm, and intentional. No big production, no drama, no surprise speeches, no last-minute changes. We chose a quiet lakeside lodge about 2 hours from where most of my family lives. It was affordable, beautiful, and most importantly, it felt like us. My family hated it from the moment we announced it. My mom kept saying the location was inconvenient. My dad said the lodge was too rustic. My older sister said it was kind of depressing and asked why we couldn't just book a hotel ballroom like normal people. I told them this was what we wanted and that they didn't have to love it, just respect it. For months, every conversation about the wedding turned into a debate. My mom offered to pay for a different venue if we changed our minds. My sister sent me links to dresses I didn't ask for and suggested I fire my photographer because you can't even tell it's a wedding in her portfolio. I kept saying no, politely but firmly. Things escalated the week of the wedding. The plan was for immediate family to arrive on Friday, have a casual welcome dinner, wedding on Saturday, and brunch on Sunday. On Friday afternoon, my parents and sister arrived late and already irritated. They complained about the drive, the lack of cell service, and the fact that the lodge rooms didn't have TVs. My mom made a comment about how it felt like a corporate retreat and not a wedding. At dinner that night, my sister announced that she had taken it upon herself to fix a few things. She said she had spoken to the lodge manager earlier and asked if they could rearrange the ceremony seating to look more traditional. She also asked if they could move the ceremony indoors because it might be windy. None of this had been discussed with me. I pulled her aside and told her she had no right to do that. She said she was just trying to help and that I was being too rigid. My mom backed her up and said I was stressing everyone out by being controlling. The next morning, it got worse. I woke up to find that my mom had decorated the ceremony space with items she brought from home. Bows, signs, and artificial flowers and colors that clashed with everything. When I asked what was going on, she said she thought the space looked empty and needed warmth. I told her to take everything down. She cried and said I was embarrassing her in front of the staff. My partner stepped in and supported me, which only made my family angrier. My dad said I was being ungrateful and that family should have a say in events like this. My sister accused me of caring more about aesthetics than people. The ceremony itself was fine because the staff helped restore everything, but the damage was done. My family barely spoke to me during the reception. My mom left early, my sister skipped the dance, and my dad made a toast that focused more on how stubborn I've always been than on our marriage. The breaking point came on Sunday at brunch. My mom said we needed to clear the air. She said I owed everyone an apology for how I treated them, for rejecting their help, and for making the weekend uncomfortable. She said several relatives felt unwelcome and confused by my attitude. I said no. I told her this was my wedding, not a family committee project. I said boundaries are not disrespect, and that trying to override my decisions without asking was not help. I said I was hurt that instead of supporting me, they spent the entire weekend trying to reshape the event into something they preferred. My sister laughed and said I was being dramatic. My dad said I was holding a grudge and that in a few years I'd regret how I handled this. My mom said she couldn't believe she raised someone so cold. We left early. Since then, I've received multiple messages from relatives saying my parents are devastated and that I should apologize to keep the peace. A few people said weddings are about family, not control, and that I should have been more flexible. My mom hasn't spoken to me directly, but has told others she feels deeply hurt and excluded. I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I feel like I defended my boundaries during one of the few events in life that is actually about the couple getting married. But the pressure to apologize is constant, and part of me wonders if standing my ground cost me something I can't fix. So AITA for refusing to apologize after my family ignored my wishes and then blamed me for the fallout? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue after she announced her pregnancy. I, 29F, have been planning my wedding with my fiancé, Mark, 31M, for almost 2 years. We're getting married this fall at a small lakeside venue about an hour from where we live. It's not fancy, but it's meaningful. It's the place where Mark proposed when my grandparents used to take me as a kid and where we always imagined getting married. We booked it early, paid the deposit, and planned everything around that location. My family has known this for a long time. My sister Jenna, 27F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child. She's louder, more impulsive, and tends to get what she wants because my parents hate conflict. I'm more reserved and tend to avoid drama, which usually means I end up swallowing my feelings to keep the peace. Despite that, I still tried to include her in my wedding planning. I asked her to be a bridesmaid, invited her to fittings, and tried to make her feel involved even when she made little digs about my taste or budget. About 3 months ago, Jenna announced she was pregnant. Everyone was thrilled. I was genuinely happy for her, even though the announcement happened at my engagement party, which already felt like a pattern repeating itself. I let it go because I didn't want to seem bitter. Since then, most family conversations have revolved around her pregnancy. Again, I told myself it was fine. Last month, Jenna and her boyfriend decided they want to get married too. Apparently, the pregnancy made them want to do things right. At first, I thought they were just talking about a courthouse wedding or something small. Then she told me they were looking at venues. When she mentioned my venue, I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Jenna said that since my wedding is child-free and hers wouldn't be, the venue made more sense for her. She also said that because she's pregnant now, it would be easier for her to have the wedding sooner, and the venue already knows our family. She suggested I could just pick somewhere else because I'm not pregnant and have more flexibility. She framed it as practical, not personal. I immediately said no. I reminded her that we booked the venue first, that it's important to me emotionally, and that we've already put money down. She got upset and said I was being selfish and not thinking about her situation. She told me I've always been rigid and that this was just another example of me choosing my comfort over family. Things escalated when my parents got involved. They called me together and suggested a compromise. Their idea was that Jenna could use the venue for a smaller ceremony earlier in the summer, and I could still have mine in the fall. When I asked if the venue even allows that, they said they hadn't checked, but were sure it could be worked out. I said even if it could, I wasn't comfortable sharing the venue for such a personal event, especially when the proposal came with so much pressure. My mom started crying and said she didn't understand why I couldn't just be the bigger person. She said Jenna is pregnant, stressed, and needs support. My dad said that family should come before a party, which really hurt because this isn't just a party to me. It's my wedding. After that conversation, Jenna stopped speaking to me. She posted vague things online about people who can't be happy for others and gatekeeping joy. Some relatives reached out to tell me I should reconsider, that weddings are just one day, and that I'll regret causing a rift. A few others quietly told me they understood but didn't want to get involved. Mark fully supports me, but he's also stressed because he hates seeing me hurt. He suggested that if I truly want to change venues, we can, but only if it's my choice and not because I'm being bullied. The thing is, the more pressure I get, the more dug in I feel. It's not even just about the venue anymore. It's about feeling. Like my life events are always expected to shrink to make room for my sisters. Now, my parents barely talk to me unless it's to bring up how hard this is on Jenna and the baby. No one asks how I'm doing or how the wedding planning is going. I'm starting to feel like the villain in my own family for wanting to keep something that was mine first. I genuinely don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if this is another situation where I'm expected to sacrifice to keep everyone else comfortable. So AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding venue, even though she's pregnant and wants it now. AITA for refusing to apologize after I exposed my sister's surprise and ruined her engagement party. I'm 29F. My sister Lily is 32F. We've always had a complicated relationship. She's the golden child. I'm the difficult one who asks questions and doesn't smile through nonsense. Our parents adore her, excuse everything she does, and expect me to be flexible. I've mostly accepted that dynamic, but this situation has blown up the entire family. Lily has been dating Mark for 4 years. Mark and I actually get along well. He's quiet, thoughtful, and clearly in love with her. Over the last year, Lily has been obsessed with the idea of a perfect engagement. Not a happy one, a perfect one. She's talked nonstop about themes, lighting, outfits, and how it has to be Instagram-worthy. Mark, meanwhile, confided in me that he was nervous because Lily kept giving him instructions that contradicted each other. About 2 months ago, Lily asked me to help plan a small family dinner for our parents' anniversary. She insisted I handle the logistics because she was overwhelmed. I booked the restaurant, coordinated with our parents, and paid the deposit up front, expecting to be reimbursed later. A week before the dinner, Mark called me and asked if the reservation could be extended by an hour because he was planning to propose that night. I was surprised but happy for him and agreed to adjust things. The day before the dinner, Lily came over to my place unannounced. She was frantic and angry. She accused me of stealing her moment and demanded to know why I was involved in the proposal. Confused, I asked what she meant. She admitted she already knew Mark was going to propose because she'd been checking his email and found the ring receipt weeks ago. She said the anniversary dinner was supposed to be a fake event, and the real plan was an engagement party she had secretly organized at the same restaurant afterward. Here's the problem. None of that had been communicated to me. I told her that from my perspective, I was helping Mark propose during a family dinner, not staging some elaborate double event. She told me it didn't matter and that I needed to follow her script. She then asked me to lie to Mark and pretend I hadn't spoken to her, while also secretly signaling the restaurant staff about her party timeline. I refused. I said I wasn't comfortable lying to Mark or being part of something that felt manipulative. Lily lost it. She called me selfish, jealous, and accused me of wanting attention. She said if anything went wrong, it would be my fault. She left my apartment crying and slammed the door hard enough to knock a picture frame off the wall. The next day at the restaurant, everything was tense. Mark was nervous but excited. Lily was acting overly sweet, which she does when she's furious but wants to look good. Halfway through dinner, the manager approached our table to confirm details about the engagement event scheduled next. Mark looked completely blindsided. He turned red and asked what they meant. Lily froze. Everyone stared at me because I was the one who booked the place. I told the truth. I said there was a misunderstanding that I booked a dinner, Mark planned a proposal, and I had no idea about a separate engagement party. Mark looked crushed. He asked Lily if she knew about the proposal already. After a long silence, she admitted she did and said she just wanted things done right. Mark stood up, said he needed air, and left the restaurant. The rest of the night was a disaster. My parents yelled at me for airing dirty laundry. Lily sobbed and said I humiliated her. Mark didn't come back. The staff awkwardly cleared the table. I paid the bill because no one else moved. The next day, Lily texted me demanding an apology for ruining the happiest moment of her life. I told her I was sorry things went badly, but I wasn't sorry for telling the truth or refusing to lie. Now my parents are barely speaking to me. Lily has blocked me, and extended family is calling me heartless. Mark texted me privately to thank me for being honest, but said he needs time to think about everything. I genuinely don't know if I should just apologize to keep the peace or stand my ground. I didn't plan to expose her, but I also don't think I should take the blame for a situation built on secrecy and control. AITA? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned the role she promised me for years. AITA, I'm 32F and my sister Lena is 29F. We grew up very close, but in a competitive way that only siblings can really understand. She was the charismatic one who made friends easily, and I was the dependable one who always showed up. Our parents leaned on me a lot, especially when things went sideways in the family, and Lena used to joke that I was the backup adult. When we were teenagers, our mom got sick, and I took on a lot of responsibility. I helped manage appointments, cooked dinners, and generally held things together. Lena was there emotionally, but she admits she couldn't handle the logistics. During that time, she used to say, half joking and half serious, that if she ever got married, I'd be the one standing next to her because I already knew how to run the show. Fast forward to adulthood. Lena got engaged 2 years ago. I was one of the first people she told, and during that conversation, she asked me to be her maid of honor. Not a casual ask. She cried, said I'd always been her anchor, and that she couldn't imagine doing it without me. I accepted, obviously. I was honored, and I took it seriously. Over the next year, I helped with everything. Dress shopping, venue tours, vendor emails, budget spreadsheets, family drama mediation. I threw her engagement party and her bridal shower. I even used some of my own vacation days to travel back and forth because we live in different cities. I didn't complain, even when it was stressful, because I thought that's what being maid of honor meant. About 6 months ago, Lena started getting closer to a coworker of hers, Maya. They bonded quickly, and Maya became very involved in the wedding. I was glad Lena had another support person, and I didn't feel threatened. At least not at first. 3 months ago, Lena called me and said she wanted to talk about the wedding party. I assumed it was about logistics. Instead, she told me she had decided to make Maya the maid of honor instead, because Maya was local and more in the thick of her everyday life now. She said my role would change to honorary bridesmaid, which apparently meant I'd still walk down the aisle, but wouldn't give a speech or be involved in decision-making anymore. I was shocked. I asked her if I had done something wrong. She said no, that I'd been amazing, but that she felt her wedding had evolved, and she wanted the person who knew her current self best in that role. She also said I should understand because I'm practical and not sentimental, which hurt because I thought all the work I'd done was proof of how much I cared. I told her I needed time to process. After the call, I cried for hours. It felt like all the years of showing up, especially during hard times, were being brushed aside for someone she'd known for less than 2 years. I also felt used, like I'd done the heavy lifting and was being replaced for the fun parts. A week later, I told Lena that I couldn't attend the wedding. I said it wasn't about punishment, but about protecting myself. Watching someone else stand in a role that had been promised to me, after everything, would be too painful. I told her I loved her, but I needed distance. She was furious. She said I was making her wedding about me, and that I was abandoning her over a title. Our parents got involved and told me I was being selfish and dramatic, and that family should suck it up for one day. Some friends agree with them, saying weddings are stressful and I should be the bigger person. From my perspective, this isn't just about a title. It's about being told I'm mattered, acting accordingly for years, and then being quietly sidelined because someone more convenient came along. I don't think I can sit there smiling and pretend it doesn't hurt. Now the wedding is 2 months away, and the pressure is intense. Lena says if I don't come, our relationship may never recover. I feel like if I do go, I'll be teaching her that my feelings are optional as long as things look nice. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned the role she promised me for years? AITA for refusing to help plan my sister's wedding after she uninvited my partner because he doesn't fit the vibe? I'm 29F. My sister Lena is 32F. We grew up close in age and were always compared, which I think matters here. She's always been very type A, very image conscious, very good at getting what she wants by being charming but firm. I'm more laid back and tend to go along to keep the peace. Historically, that as men I end up doing a lot of emotional labor for her. Lena got engaged last year to her longtime boyfriend. From the moment it happened, our entire family's life started orbiting the wedding. She asked me to be maid of honor, and I said yes even though I knew it would be a lot. I work full-time, live an hour away, and I'm in a serious relationship of 4 years with my partner Mark, 31M. Mark is quiet, thoughtful, and not flashy. He's an engineer, dresses simply, and hates attention. My family likes him well enough, though Lena has always been a bit cool toward him. She's never been rude outright, but she's made comment about him being low energy or not very social. As maid of honor, I helped with everything. Dress shopping, venue tours, tastings, DIY decor nights at her apartment, spreadsheets, budgets, managing our mom's anxiety, calming Lena down during meltdowns. I didn't mind at first. I wanted her day to be special. Mark also helped in the background, picking me up late, cooking when I was exhausted, and never complaining that my weekends were basically gone. About 3 months ago, Lena had her bachelorette weekend. Mark drove me 3 hours to the rental house and picked me up after. When I got home, he told me Lena had made a joke while I was inside about him being basically the Uber driver and laughed with some of the bridesmaids. It stung, but I told him she was probably stressed and didn't mean anything by it. Then last month, Lena asked to meet me for coffee. She was nervous and kept saying how much she loved me and appreciated everything I was doing. Then she said she wanted to talk about the guest list. She explained that the wedding was becoming very curated and that she and her fiancé were trying to maintain a certain atmosphere. She said Mark was nice, but he didn't really mesh with their friends and family, and she worried he'd bring the energy down. She suggested that since I'd be so busy as maid of honor anyway, it might be better if Mark didn't attend. I was honestly stunned. I asked if she was serious. She said yes, but framed it as a practical decision, not personal. She even said Mark would probably be relieved not to have to go. I told her she didn't get to decide that, and that excluding my long-term partner was incredibly hurtful. She got defensive and said it was her wedding, her rules, and that I was making it about me. I went home and told Mark. He tried to be understanding and said he didn't want to cause problems, but I could tell he was hurt. That was the moment something in me snapped. I realized how much I'd been bending myself into knots for a wedding where my own relationship was being treated as an inconvenience. I told Lena I couldn't continue as maid of honor if Mark wasn't invited. I didn't scream or threaten. I just said it calmly. She cried, accused me of abandoning her, and said I was punishing her for being honest. Our mom got involved and said I should just suck it up for one day, that relationships come and go, but sisters are forever. That comment made me furious because my relationship has been stable and loving for years, and reducing it like that felt dismissive. Lena then told the family I was refusing to help with the wedding over a +1. Some relatives reached out saying I was being dramatic, that weddings are stressful, and that I should be more supportive. Others quietly said they understood, but didn't want to get involved. I stepped down as maid of honor. I told Lena I'd still attend as a guest if Mark was invited, but I couldn't be part of something that disrespected my partner. She said if I couldn't prioritize her on her wedding day, maybe I shouldn't come at all. That broke my heart. We haven't really spoken since, except for tense logistical texts. Now the wedding is 2 months away. I feel guilty because I know she's overwhelmed and I used to be her main support. At the same time, I feel strangely relieved not to be drowning in wedding tasks. Mark has been supportive and keeps telling me I did the right thing, but I can tell he worries my family will resent him forever. Some days I wonder if I should just apologize, ask Lena to reconsider, and go back to helping, even if Mark stays home. Other days, I feel angry that this was even asked of me. I keep replaying the coffee shop conversation in my head, wondering if I overreacted or if this was a long overdue boundary. So AITA for refusing to help plan my sister's wedding after she uninvited my partner because he doesn't fit the vibe. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister live with me after she got out of rehab. This is a long story, so bear with me. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emma, 27F, who has had a complicated past with substance abuse. Growing up, she was always the wild child in the family, and while I try to support her, I also learned to protect myself and my own life from the chaos she often brought. Our parents are divorced, and my mom has a history of enabling Emma. So over the years, I've become the sister who tries to enforce boundaries. About 2 years ago, Emma's drinking and drug use hit a particularly bad point. She lost her job, had multiple run-ins with the law, and burned bridges with almost everyone in her life. I tried to help her get into rehab, and after some legal issues, she finally committed to a 90-day inpatient program. While she was in rehab, I thought a lot about what it would mean if she came out clean and ready to rebuild her life. I wanted to support her, but I also didn't want to put my life on hold or risk enabling her relapse. When Emma got out, she was sober and seemed genuinely committed to turning her life around. She called me a few days after leaving rehab and said she didn't have anywhere to go. Our parents live in another state, and she had burned bridges with friends who might have offered temporary housing. She asked if she could stay with me for a few months while she got back on her feet. I felt torn. On one hand, I wanted to help her. On the other hand, I live alone in a small apartment, work a demanding job, and have a pretty strict routine that helps me manage my own mental health. I told her that I was happy to help in ways that didn't involve her living with me. I offered to help her find a job, connect with sober living programs, and even drive her to appointments. I also offered to help her find a short-term rental or a shared apartment where she could live independently but still have support. She immediately got upset and said I was being cruel, that I was abandoning her, and that if I loved her, I would let her stay. She reminded me of everything I had said about supporting her and accused me of hypocrisy because I had helped her in the past when she was struggling. I tried explaining my side. I told her that I love her and that I want her to succeed, but I also have a life, responsibilities, and boundaries that I need to maintain. I said that having her live with me could trigger a relapse or create tension that might harm both of us. She said that was just an excuse, that I was prioritizing myself over family, and that my apartment was bigger than my need to sleep, eat, and have personal space. She started sending me long texts every day, asking why I wouldn't help her in this most important moment of her life. I stuck to my decision. I researched sober living homes in the area and even visited a few to make sure they were safe and supportive. I sent her a list and offered to help her apply. She rejected it outright and said that living in a facility was degrading and that she would rather stay with friends, even if it meant couch surfing. I told her that if she needed my support, I was still there emotionally and logistically, but I could not compromise my own mental health and stability. After a week of back and forth, she sent me a long email saying that she felt betrayed and that I had turned my back on her. She accused me of being selfish, uncaring, and even cruel. She said she would never forgive me and that this was the final straw in our relationship. I haven't spoken to her in over a month. Our parents have called me, saying I should reconsider, and some friends have suggested that I might have been too rigid. Here's the thing. I feel like I did the responsible thing. I'm not cutting her off entirely. I'm offering support, guidance, and resources. I'm literally putting her needs above financial considerations. I could have told her to fend for herself entirely, but I am drawing a line at having her live with me. I've seen what cohabitation can do for someone who is newly sober, and I know it could be a slippery slope. I also know my own limits. I love her, but love doesn't mean sacrificing your entire life and well-being. I don't know if I'm the asshole here. I've been called cruel, selfish, and unsupportive. Part of me feels guilty because she really has nowhere else to go, but another part of me feels that setting boundaries is the only way to truly help her in the long run. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to let my sister live with me after rehab, even though she claims it's the only way she can rebuild her life. AITA for refusing to babysit my niece because of my strained relationship with my sister. I, 29F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Megan, 34F. Growing up, she was the classic golden child in our family. Perfect grades, perfect manners, perfect everything. I was the middle child, constantly overshadowed, and honestly, sometimes neglected in comparison. Our parents never really realized how much their favoritism affected me. Or if they did, they brushed it off as normal sibling rivalry. Over the years, Megan and I drifted apart, especially once I moved out of our hometown. We still keep in touch occasionally, mostly through texts or holiday gatherings, but I wouldn't call us close by any means. A few months ago, Megan had a baby, Olivia. She's a sweet child, and I genuinely like her, but the dynamic between my sister and me hasn't changed. Megan has always been a little controlling and judgmental of how I do things, and she's never really let me forget the way our parents treated us differently. Despite that, I wanted to be a part of my niece's life, so I try to be present when I can, even if it's just small visits or sending gifts. A couple of weeks ago, Megan texted me out of the blue. She asked if I could babysit Olivia for a few hours on a Saturday, because she had some errands and a work meeting. I immediately felt a pang of hesitation. It wasn't that I didn't want to help, but babysitting a newborn is incredibly stressful for me, and I've only done it a handful of times. The last time I babysat a baby, I stayed up almost the whole night trying to soothe them, and I ended up physically and emotionally exhausted. Plus, I wasn't sure I wanted to deal with Megan hovering over me, criticizing every little thing I did with her child. I was honest with myself and knew it would likely lead to an argument or at least a tense few hours. When I replied to her, I tried to be polite but firm. I said that I wasn't comfortable babysitting Olivia at this time because I didn't feel prepared to take on the responsibility by myself. I suggested maybe doing a shorter visit at my place or meeting at a park where I could interact with Olivia without the pressure of being fully in charge. I also mentioned that I wanted to be a good aunt, but needed a gradual approach. I thought this was a reasonable compromise. Her response, however, blindsided me. She texted back, saying she was disappointed that I was letting my insecurities get in the way of family responsibilities, and that I was being selfish for not helping her out. She went on about how she had sacrificed so much for Olivia, and how I was supposed to support her as a sister. She even said that if I truly cared about my niece, I would step up and babysit without hesitation. I was taken aback. I felt like she completely ignored my feelings and dismissed the history of tension between us. I tried to explain that this wasn't about her or Olivia personally, but about my own limits and mental well-being. I also reminded her that I have a demanding job and personal commitments, and that babysitting a newborn was a lot more than just a casual favor. She didn't respond for a few days, which I thought was a sign she might be cooling down, but then she sent a message saying that I was choosing to be distant and letting her struggle alone, and that our relationship was suffering because of my refusal. The situation escalated during a family dinner a few days later. My parents were there, and Megan brought it up in front of everyone, saying that I was being unfair and selfish. I tried to stay calm and reiterated my feelings about needing boundaries and my own pace in developing a relationship with Olivia. My parents, surprisingly, backed me up to some extent, saying that while it's good to help family, they understood my perspective and that my sister might need to adjust her expectations. Megan, however, was visibly frustrated and stormed out, leaving a very awkward atmosphere. She hasn't spoken to me directly. Since then, only sending a few terse messages about scheduling future visits. Some of my extended family have started weighing in on the situation. Some agree with me, saying it's reasonable not to force oneself into stressful situations, especially with a baby, and that I can build a bond with Olivia in ways that are comfortable for me. Others, however, say I should just step up for my sister and that family obligations should come before personal comfort. Even friends have given mixed advice. Some say I need to be firm in my boundaries, while others think I might be overreacting and that refusing to babysit makes me look uncaring. I'm struggling because I genuinely want a relationship with Olivia, but I also don't want to compromise my mental health or have constant arguments with Megan. I've suggested alternative ways to be involved, taking Olivia for short outings, helping with errands, or spending a couple of hours together with both Megan and Olivia present. But Megan seems fixated on the idea of me taking full responsibility for babysitting, which I just can't do right now. I fear that if I do agree to babysit, it will not only be stressful, but could also damage my relationship with Megan further if she criticizes my parenting style or questions every decision I make. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to babysit my niece because of my strained relationship with my sister and my personal limits. I want to be a good aunt, but I also don't want to sacrifice my own well-being or pretend everything is fine when it's not. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding take over my home. I, 32F, am struggling with a situation involving my younger sister, Emily, 28F, and I can't tell if I'm being unreasonable. I've always had a close relationship with Emily, but recently things have gotten tense, and I'm afraid it might irreparably damage our bond. A little context. I've lived in the same apartment for about 8 years. It's modest but comfortable, and I put a lot of effort into making it a home. I'm very private and value my space, so I tend to keep my apartment cozy and quiet. Emily, on the other hand, is outgoing and very social. She's the type who thrives on hosting parties and getting everyone involved in every aspect of her life. Our parents live nearby, but they have their own home, so most of the family gatherings are split between our places depending on the event. Emily recently got engaged to her fiancé, Jake, and she immediately jumped into planning a wedding that, in her words, needs to be perfect. That's when things started getting complicated. Emily asked if she could use my apartment to host some of the pre-wedding events, bridal shower, bachelorette party, rehearsal dinner, and possibly even a few planning meetings with her wedding planner and vendors. She made it sound like it would only be occasional and that it would be convenient for everyone because of the location. I initially said yes to hosting a single bridal shower, thinking it would be manageable. I love Emily, and I wanted her to be happy. I spent a lot of time preparing, cleaning, and rearranging furniture to accommodate everyone. However, during the shower, it became clear that she expected me to be involved in every detail. Guests were coming over unannounced, leaving things out of place, and I felt like my apartment had been turned into a public venue rather than a personal home. It was overwhelming, but I tried to remind myself that this was for Emily, so I pushed through. After that, Emily started asking about more events. A bachelorette party, which she insisted should happen at my place because it was cozier than a hotel suite, and then rehearsal dinners, vendor meetings, and even a few post-engagement parties. Every time, I felt pressure to say yes because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. But each request meant more cleaning, rearranging, and hosting people I didn't even know, often during weekends when I wanted to relax. I began to dread opening my door, which is not how I want my home to feel. Things came to a head last month when she asked if she could store wedding decorations and supplies in my apartment for the next 6 months. She explained that her fiancé's apartment is smaller and that it would be easier to keep things at my place. At this point, I felt like she was crossing a boundary. My apartment is small, and I have limited storage space. I politely said that I couldn't store her stuff, that it would be inconvenient for me, and that I needed my home to remain my home. Emily immediately got upset and accused me of not supporting her wedding and not caring about the family. She told me that everyone else in the family thought I was being selfish and that I should reconsider. I tried to explain that supporting her doesn't have to mean giving up my home entirely. I offered alternatives, perhaps renting a small storage unit for her supplies, hosting 1 or 2 events at her fiancé's place, or even looking into community spaces or small event venues. Emily didn't accept these suggestions and became increasingly emotional. She sent me long messages detailing how family is supposed to help each other and how she can't believe I would put myself before my sister's happiness. I've spoken with my parents, and they've been somewhat supportive. They said they understand that I don't have to give up my home, but they also suggested that I compromise a little because it's Emily's wedding. I feel like any compromise I make will open the door for further requests and potentially turn my life upside down. I'm also worried that saying no will permanently damage my relationship with Emily. Now, Emily has stopped talking to me for over a week. She hasn't responded to texts and has unfollowed me on social media. My parents are caught in the middle, and the tension is affecting family gatherings. I genuinely want to be there for her and celebrate her wedding, but I also feel like she doesn't understand that my home is my sanctuary. I'm worried that by standing my ground, I might be seen as the villain in the family story. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister essentially take over my apartment for months and host multiple wedding-related events? I feel like I'm trying to set boundaries, but I don't want to be perceived as unsupportive or selfish. At the same time, I'm overwhelmed by the expectation that I should give up my private space for her entire wedding journey. I've always been a good sister in other ways, helping with invitations, giving advice, and attending every family event. But this particular issue has caused a major rift. Has anyone else faced a situation like this where a family member wanted to use your home extensively for their wedding or life events? How do you set boundaries without being labeled the bad sibling? I really want to find a way to support Emily without losing my peace of mind. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister move back in after she got out of rehab. I, 32M, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Jenna, 28F. Growing up, she was the wild child of the family. Mom passed away when we were young, and Dad did his best, but he wasn't really equipped to handle her constant rebellion. I ended up stepping in a lot, making sure she got to school, helping her with homework, and sometimes even covering for her when she got into trouble. By the time we were adults, our relationship had settled into a kind of uneasy truce. We cared for each other, but there was always tension, usually around her choices and my tendency to lecture. Fast forward to the past few years, Jenna's life has been a mess. She started drinking heavily in college, bounced between bad jobs, and had a few short-lived relationships that ended poorly. About 2 years ago, she got into harder substances. We tried to intervene, but she wasn't willing to listen. About 6 months ago, she finally hit rock bottom after an overdose that landed her in the hospital. It was a wake-up call for her, and she entered a rehabilitation program for a month, followed by a structured outpatient program. She called me recently to tell me that she's finally ready to get her life back on track, and asked if she could move back in with me for a few months while she finds a job and saves money. I have been living in a small 2-bedroom apartment, which I share with my cat. My apartment isn't huge, and it's not really set up for long-term guests, let alone someone who is just starting over with sobriety. I was hesitant from the start because of my past experiences with her. While I want to support her, I also have my own life, job, and routines, and I feared that living together could strain both of us. When she arrived, she seemed different. She was quieter, more serious, and genuinely apologetic about her past behavior. I wanted to give her a chance, so I allowed her to stay in my spare room. At first, things went okay. She followed her outpatient schedule, helped around the apartment, and was respectful of my space. But after a couple of weeks, small issues started piling up. She began leaving her laundry all over the apartment, not doing dishes, and staying up late watching TV while I had early morning work calls. When I gently reminded her about these things, she got defensive and said she's adjusting to a new routine. I tried to be patient, but my patience was running thin. One day, I came home to find my kitchen completely covered in empty soda cans, snack wrappers, and a half-finished bottle of wine. I was furious. I reminded her firmly that she promised to avoid alcohol in her recovery and that keeping wine in my apartment was not okay. She cried, saying she just had it as a reminder that she could resist it. I explained that this was not a safe way to handle recovery, especially under my roof. Tensions escalated after that. I noticed she was starting arguments over trivial things like how I loaded the dishwasher or the volume of my music. She started leaving passive-aggressive notes around the apartment about how she felt unwelcome. I tried to talk to her calmly, but every conversation seemed to turn into a confrontation. I began losing sleep and felt constant stress being around her. I realized that while I wanted to help her, I also needed to protect my mental health. A couple of days ago, I sat her down and told her that I could no longer have her living with me. I explained that I love her and want to support her, but our living arrangement was unhealthy for both of us. I suggested she look into transitional housing programs for people in recovery or temporary sublets, so she could have her own space while she gets back on her feet. She was devastated. She accused me of abandoning her, saying I was cruel and selfish. She reminded me of everything I've done for her in the past, implying that I owed her this. I stood my ground, but our conversation ended in tears and silence. I've had friends and some family members tell me I'm being harsh and that I should just be there for her since she's vulnerable. Others have said I'm right to set boundaries and that enabling her or tolerating unsafe behavior would only hurt both of us in the long run. Now, I feel guilty every time I think about her. I know she's struggling and that this is a critical period for her recovery, but I also know that I can't compromise my own mental health and stability. I've offered to help her find a place, pay for a moving service, and be available for regular phone or video check-ins. I just can't have her living in my apartment. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.